Beyond trauma, the untold legacy of Black women's brilliance. Have you ever noticed how the stories we tell shape the futures we create? How the narratives we absorb become the boundaries of what we believe is possible? I recently had the extraordinary privilege of interviewing Tammy Denease, a remarkable historian and storyteller who has dedicated her life to excavating the buried treasures of Black women's history in America. Tammy isn't just a historian. She's a time traveler, a truth teller, a keeper of flames that society has tried desperately to extinguish. With scholarly precision and poetic passion, she resurrects the stories of Black women whose brilliance transformed America, yet whose names remain whispers in the margins of history books, if they appear at all. History isn't just what happened, Tammy told me, her voice resonating with the kind of conviction that makes you sit up straighter. It's what we choose to remember, celebrate, and pass on. This simple truth hit me like lightning. The stories we tell about ourselves and our ancestors quite literally program our sense of possibility. They become the invisible architecture of our ambitions, the silent boundaries of our dreams. Think about it. What happens when the only stories you hear about people who look like you revolve around suffering, oppression, and victimhood? Even when those stories are true, and many certainly are, what happens when they become the entire narrative? You begin to believe that trauma is your inheritance, your birthright, your destiny. But what if that's only a fraction of the truth? What if, alongside stories of struggle, there exists an equally powerful legacy of triumph, innovation, and leadership that has been systematically erased from our collective memory? This is the revelation Tammy Denease brings to light through her work. A revelation that transforms how we understand not just history, but our own potential. Consider Mary McLeod Bethune. Born to formerly enslaved parents in 1875 South Carolina, Bethune could have been defined solely by the oppressive circumstances of her birth. Instead, she became one of the most influential educators and civil rights leaders of the 20th century with just $1.50 in her pocket. Let that sink in for a moment. $1.50, which wouldn't buy you a cup of coffee today. She founded a school for Black girls that would eventually become Bethune Cookman University, a prestigious historically Black college that continues shaping minds today. But her impact didn't stop there. Bethune became the highest ranking African American woman in government when President Franklin Roosevelt appointed her as Director of Negro Affairs at the National Youth Administration. This wasn't just a personal achievement, it was a seismic shift in what seemed possible for Black women in America. As Tammy explained during our interview, Bethune didn't just build institutions, she built a new vision of what Black women could accomplish in a society determined to limit them. And yet, how many of us grew up learning about Mary McLeod Bethune in our history classes? How many of us can name her accomplishments with the same familiarity we can recite the horrors of slavery? This selective amnesia isn't accidental, it's by design. When we only remember the trauma, we forget the triumph. When we only study the oppression, we overlook the innovation. When we only teach about victimhood, we erase the leadership. And in that erasure, we lose something precious, the knowledge that excellence, brilliance, and world changing power are also our inheritance. Let me introduce you to another extraordinary woman, Tammy, highlighted in our conversation, Miriam E. Benjamin. In the late 1800s, when both women and African Americans faced nearly insurmountable barriers to entering scientific fields, Benjamin became only the second Black woman ever awarded a U.S. patent. Her invention? The gong and signal chair, a revolutionary device that allowed hotel guests to summon service with the press of a button. If that sounds familiar, it should. The next time you're on an airplane and press that call button, Above your seat, you're using technology directly descended from Benjamin's innovation. Her invention transformed the hospitality industry and continues influencing our daily lives over a century later. Benjamin didn't stop there. She went on to patent new methods for delivering medication through shoe inserts, demonstrating the kind of creative problem solving that defines true innovation. As Tammy noted, with a hint of justified pride, Benjamin wasn't just surviving in America. She was reimagining it, redesigning it, making it work better for everyone. Yet, how many of us know her name? How many young Black girls interested in STEM fields grow up knowing that innovation is their birthright too? The pattern of erasure continues with Septima Poinsette Clark, often called the mother of the civil rights movement, though rarely given the recognition she deserves. When Clark was fired from her teaching position for refusing to renounce her membership in the NAACP, she didn't retreat. Instead, she pioneered citizenship schools, grassroots education centers that taught literacy skills specifically designed to help Black Americans pass voter registration tests. These schools became the backbone of voter registration drives throughout the South, directly enabling thousands of Black Americans to exercise their constitutional right to vote. Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. himself called Clark's work the greatest teaching job ever done. What makes Clark's story so powerful, Tammy explained during our interview, is that she transformed education from a system that excluded Black Americans into a tool for their liberation. She didn't just protest the problem, she created the solution. These stories of Bethune, Benjamin, Clark, and countless others reveal a truth that has been systematically hidden. Black women have always been at the forefront of American innovation, education, and social transformation. This isn't just interesting historical trivia, it's life changing knowledge. Because when we understand that our ancestors weren't just survivors, but pioneers, not just victims, but visionaries, we inherit a different kind of power. We begin to see ourselves not through the lens of what was done to us, but through the legacy of what we have accomplished despite every obstacle. As Maya Angelou so powerfully stated, you can't really know where you're going until you know where you have been. When we reclaim our complete history, both the pain and the triumph, we expand our sense of what's possible for our future. This is why Tammy Denease's work is so crucial. By excavating these buried stories and bringing them into the light, she isn't just correcting the historical record, she's providing a blueprint for how we might approach our own challenges today. Think about it. Mary McLeod Bethune didn't wait for permission or perfect conditions to build an educational institution. She started with $1.50 and an unshakable belief in her students' potential. Miriam Benjamin didn't accept that the worlds of invention and innovation were closed to Black women. She created solutions so practical and effective that we still use versions of them today. Septima Clark didn't merely protest her unjust firing. She created an entirely the new educational model that empowered thousands to reclaim their political voice. These women teach us that true power that isn't just about resisting oppression. It's about creating new possibilities even when the existing systems are stacked against you. As Tammy emphasized during our conversation, when you know these stories, you approach obstacles differently. You stop asking, can this be done? And start asking, how can I do this? Because you know others have succeeded against even greater odds. This shift in perspective is transformative. It moves us from a mindset of limitation to one of possibility, from focusing on barriers to creating pathways. But this knowledge doesn't just benefit Black women, it enriches our entire society. When we recognize that innovation, leadership, and excellence have always come from diverse sources, including those our history books have systematically erased, we expand our collective understanding of human potential. We create space for new voices, new ideas, and new solutions to emerge. As James Baldwin wisely observed, not everything that is faced can be changed, but nothing can be changed until it is faced. By facing the truth of our complete history, both the painful parts and the triumphant ones, we create the possibility for genuine transformation. So I stand before you today, not just to share these stories, but to issue a challenge. A challenge to reimagine what we teach, what we celebrate, and what we believe is possible. I challenge you to become an archaeologist of hidden brilliance, to dig beneath the surface of conventional narratives and uncover the full spectrum of human achievement, to seek out one story this week about a Black woman innovator, educator, or leader whose contributions have been obscured and share it widely. I challenge educational institutions to audit their curricula. How many Black women inventors, scientists, writers, and leaders appear in your textbooks? If the answer is few or none, that's not just an oversight. It's an erasure that limits all students' understanding of what's possible. I challenge media creators to tell these stories, not as exceptional anomalies, but as part of the rich tapestry of American innovation and leadership. And I challenge each of us to examine the stories we tell ourselves about who we are and what we're capable of achieving. Are we defining ourselves by the obstacles we've faced or by the legacy of brilliance and resilience we've inherited? The future we create will be shaped by the stories we choose to tell. Let's tell the whole truth, not just of trauma survived, but of worlds transformed by Black women's brilliant, persistent, revolutionary vision. Our ancestors didn't just survive, they created, they led, they reimagined, and so can we. Thank you.